Hello, this is JJ from Paranormal Talks, paranormaltalks.com. This is part 2 of the phase shifting ascension symptoms. And we're back here with Mr. Greg Caton, who was shown these symptoms during one of his ayahuasca vision quests, during a series of his ayahuasca vision quests, and also how it relates to Dolores Cannon's description of this phase transition. So let's pick up where we left off about what these symptoms look like in your real life, what Dolores said, and specifically, Greg, what your ayahuasca vision quest showed you with these symptoms.
Well, as I said, picking up where we left off in the previous video, it affects different people differently. But there's a certain common set of symptoms that people frequently experience. High-pitched tone in the ears. You'll have this thing where you feel like you've been hit with this wave, and you're there's some nausea, there's ataxia, you're dizzy, loss of equilibrium. You feel like you're not all there, like you're actually, part of you is like departed. You don't feel fully conscious, like you're fully conscious in the 3D world. These are all symptoms, and like I say, they're variations. I haven't experienced, for instance, anything in my teeth, but I linked on a recent essay to a woman in UK who said she actually is experiencing these changes in terms of sensations she's experiencing in her teeth. Regardless, I didn't think anything about this after the book was written in 2012, and it didn't even occur and enter my consciousness again until 2018 when I started to experience these symptoms, as does my wife all the time, as does
What is Catherine, your wife? What is she experiencing?
It's like it comes and goes. Like there's this nausea, and where she feels dizzy, there's fatigue, there's like she's not all there. And like I said previously, we might have thought, well, this could be something that needs to be diagnosed. This could be a medical condition. But we've had so many friends now that are experiencing the same thing.
As am I, probably more severely.
Dr. Richard Sauter in Caton has these experiences where it's like a light, like a like a very light vibration. He says it's almost with me all the time now. So something, and these are symptoms that are recent and coming. This is not like we've been experiencing this for years. It's like recently.
Yeah.
For me, it's 2018.
Exactly.
So I'd say it's like a year and a half, maybe a year and a half.
Right. Yeah, Greg. I continue to feel this pressure, or feels like a vibration in my upper teeth more than the lower teeth and the whole top skull area.
So Dolores Cannon talked a great deal, who really was an amazing woman. She created this QHHT, quantum healing, a hypnotic healing technique, and she's got, I don't know how many practitioners around the world doing the things. Some of her practitioners are actually very outspoken about the coming event. There's a young lady on YouTube who goes by the name of Allison Coe, C-O-E, Allison, A-L-L-I-S-O-N, Coe, C-O-E, and she talks about what her clients openly talk about. You guys need to buckle up. This event is coming, and it's coming soon. No one gives a date, but something is coming our way, and that is going to restructure the order of things. So that's what I talk about. That's what I allude to in my book. And there's a lot of other things. Astrophysically, our sun has a thing on it called the heliotrope. It's like a bumper, if you will, as it kind of goes through, travels. And that bumper used to be 1 AU. It's an astronomical unit. It's 93 million miles, whatever, the supposed distance between the Earth and the Sun. And it's gone from 1 AU, and a Russian scientist has been following it, measuring it. And this is information that came out 13 years ago. It's gone from 40 AU to 1 AU to 40 AU. It's increased astronomical units. It's a distance it's a measure of distance.
Okay.
It's a measure of distance. The thickness of the heliotrope's gone from 1 AU to 40 AU, there's some dramatic, really, really dramatic things that are happening in our astrophysical locality that appear to be leading to something. Now we can debate what that something is and leave it to those in authority to make up some god-awful false narrative that tests our stupidity and measures our gullibility, but something is going on. And this is a good, I don't buy the idea this is just because of the change in the magnetic north. We are going through something that is obviously transformative. Again, we can debate what we transform into, but it's a transformative experience, and it's like nothing else I can compare to what I've experienced in my 63 years.
And Greg, in your book, the Gospel of 2012, describe more about what you were shown about this this phase shift, this phase transition, and describe.
I didn't get so much into symptoms. It's territory that Dolores.
And Greg described this image of the Earth splitting like mitosis, like two cells.
Well, I can only tell you what I was shown, and it was very definitive. I was shown the Earth that we're on right now, what you and I call, I used normal conventions, that's why it's round. I don't believe that the Earth, that's a whole other discussion. I don't believe our Earth is 6,000 miles in diameter and 24,000 miles in circumference, but that's another discussion. Let's leave that for another time. The one on the left, see how a dull and black, that's the Earth we're living now on, but what comes out of it,
yeah, it's great.
What it gives birth to is a new Earth on another dimension. And what I was told was that things don't get better here. The Earth that we're on now, the one that's black and white, gray and dull on the left, is like the skin that is shed by a snake. It's no longer part of this. It's detritus, if you will.
Yeah.
Derecha, as they say in Spanish, basura. It's discarded.
Yeah, it's discarded.
So,
it's waste, in a sense. It's waste.
Right.
Or something broken that is discarded.
But the souls that were so committed to this Luciferian agenda, to enslaving humanity, that actually get a certain demonic psychic discharge from the destruction of the Earth and the destruction of other species and the destruction of ecosystems. On the demonic realm, those things are really fun. Destroying people, causing people to live in fear and terror, and those things are fun. They're the very food of the demonic. If you're familiar with the work of Robert Monroe, the Monroe Institute, he used to talk a lot about the loosh. Remember that? Loosh. The very loosh. The food which comes from our minds, the food they feed off of, terror, fear, anxiety. It's the food of the archons. Most people don't really understand Greek tradition, of which we are descendants. Our political institutions, everything else come from the Greek. But when you call yourself an anarchist, people think, well, that means you're against the government. Yeah. It's not what it means.
Exactly.
It's a byproduct. Archon, when you say that you're anarchist means that against, anarcha, the archons, the demons. If you call yourself an anarchist, it means you are actually opposed to the agenda of the demonic realm. That's what it really means when you say anarchist. It doesn't mean that you're just out to destroy the government. It doesn't. It just, to the extent that the government aligns itself with demonic activity, you're against that. But the real focus of what an anarchist is, it's someone who's against evil, the ruling of demonic entities and the affairs of human life. This is what it really means. That's its original, if you follow the etiology of the word, the etymology of the word. So getting back to my book, what I was showing is this is their resting home. Dolores used to have a saying, they will live with what they have created. And what I was showing was an affirmation of that. They will live if you choose to give up your divine heritage, and you choose to sign on the dotted line. It's a real thing, by the way. And you sell your soul to the devil. You've got YouTubes with Holly celebrities bragging about, oh yeah, I signed the contract. Yeah, I belong to Lucifer. He's a great guy. Then there are consequences to that. Actions have consequences.
Yeah.
And you've made this place your resting home. People want to know if there's a heaven and a hell. Well, we have a hell. That's where we're at right now. And it's just going to get more hellish. And what I was showing is this planet experiences is on the way to experiencing something that rivals the Permian-Triassic event of 252 million years ago, where life was so thoroughly destroyed, it took 10 million years for even microbes to show back up again. People don't think it's possible, but that's what the archaeological records show. And I know that 252 million years sounds like a long span of time, but in the span of infinity, it's really not. Well, guess what? It's happening again. We're losing 150 to 200 species a day. You got Derek Jensen and other ecologists like him who have written endless amount of work kind of going through the details of this. They gave Elizabeth Colbert the Nobel, the Pulitzer Prize in 2014 for writing The Sixth Extinction. We're an extinction event. We're living on a planet that's going extinct. And this place is the resting home for the souls that think it was just so damn bitchin' to basically train wreck the world's ecosystems. It's really a lot of fun.
Well,
Feeds the
it kind of
demons.
makes you, Greg, it kind of makes you wonder why we showed up at this time in history for a lifetime to experience this.
I was showing that we are observers. We are here to observe this, to internalize it, to be a witness to the effects and the Creator's allowance of evil, to enunciate the different, to really teach the nature of divinity, to teach the nature of goodness by showing its extreme contrast. And
okay,
that
so
on the
it's a
other
lesson.
side,
It's a learning opportunity.
I had a ayahuasca journey because I do it all the time. On the 11th,
Yes.
which actually is a week ago today,
Yeah.
January 11th, 2020. And because I can choose I can choose the questions I want to ask, and I can choose where I want to travel and go with my consciousness. And I was told that in the other side, that those of us here become the standard bearers or the witnesses to other souls, is to what is the consequence of not understanding the function of evil, to becoming the refining process, to testing the metal of the soul. It tests the metal of the soul. It's not. This is a very difficult journey. It's very difficult to go through and to witness this and to see a complete abandonment of all that is good and sacred and holy and worth revering. Everything that's really truly worth revering is being destroyed or scoffed at or denigrated in our culture. And we are the witnesses to this process and to what it actually produces. And we will actually be the instructors on other levels and in other places in the universe to teach. This is the process. I can speak to you in a very personal way. I was there. I saw it. I witnessed it for myself.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So those of you who are having these ascension symptoms, these phase shiftings, Greg, what would you recommend for them in dealing with them? Because they can be very off-putting and very uncomfortable, especially the nausea and the dizziness, which makes you fall down.
Yeah, I said this to you before. I have had instances where I'm driving a car. I have to pull my car over, put the emergency flashers on, and wait 5 minutes and let this episode. Okay, you're driving a car. You'd better be quite thoroughly in the third dimension if you're driving an automobile. So I can feel when it's about to come on. So I pull over, I let it go, I internalize the experience, and then I continue on. But I was at a restaurant when one of the early times when it first happened in 2018 was very embarrassing. We're going into a restaurant. I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do? I can't walk. I'm so disoriented. I'm going to bump into things. People are going to wonder, what the hell is this guy? Did this guy come in here? Was he on drugs? Is this guy on an LSD trip? So I had to just stop for a moment and pretend and be polite. And just pretend like I'm looking around the restaurant. It was a new restaurant. I'd never been in before, and just pretend. I had to
Oh,
pretend that I had to maintain and pretend that everything was normal. And then when the symptoms went away, about 2 minutes later, then I proceeded to my table where I was there with
wow.
my associates. So, yeah, and this is happening to more people. I've been following this now for about 1.5 years since it started happening to me, because when it first started happening to me, I think, what's going on? I got this can't, I regularly take anti-cancer herbs. This can't be cancer. I know it's not. So what else could it be? So, um, that's when I started asking other people and started associating. So to answer the question that got this rolling, well, what do you tell the people? The first thing to do is to be aware that it's happening. There's probably going to be some benefit to listening. There's other YouTubes of people. Just put in Ascension symptoms. You'll get other people who you're finding are now starting to talk about this. And I think what's going to happen is going to happen more and more, because for me, this has only increased in intensity over the last 1.5 years. And my wife didn't start experiencing it except for maybe 3-4 months ago.
Hmm.
In fact, when I first started telling her about it,
And,
she was like,
and three
I don't know what's
and 4 months ago starts in September 2019, October 2019, all the
right
way
around
through
there.
now into
That's,
January
that's when she
2020.
first started experiencing it.
Yeah.
And, there's moments where she has to sit back and close her eyes and just quietly meditate
Mm.
and work her way through it. And I find myself doing the same thing sometimes. So
Mm.
I think it's an important phenomenon, and it's happening to people uh, who don't have any null. For instance, I'll give you an example. I have a friend whose son lives in Gainesville, Florida, the same place my son lives. And he started having the experiences. He's just 23. At my age, if you're 23, you're a kid.
Yeah.
And so he's just starting to what is going on with me? But he's a good student. He's an athlete. He's like, what's happening to me? And I asked, what were the symptoms? And come to find out, they're the same ones that I'm experiencing.
Hmm.
He doesn't have any background in this. He has no front loading. There's no intellectual front loading here. It's not like he's been told, well, these things have, so there's no
And Greg, he's not familiar.
placebo.
Greg, he's
Huh?
not familiar with Dolores Cannon either.
No, absolutely not. None of
Okay.
it. None of it.
Okay.
And didn't even have an interest in it.
Yeah.
He's just a kid who's going to school and is having these symptoms and just is wondering, what in the hell is going on with me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I explained it. And then about the same time, we found out that his grandmother, my associate's mother, is experiencing the same thing.
Hmm.
So this thing isn't isolated by what is your age. It's not, there's nothing that isolates this by age, gender, race, background, the language you speak, whatever. There's no correlations. There's no correlations. I just think it's happening to people just now who happen to have more sensitive physiologies and maybe are more psychically sensitive. But it's happening to more and more people.
Greg, some people speculate that it might be our cell phones, which are transceivers. And we always
I have a
carry
device
these
I keep
with
at the back
us.
of mine.
Yeah, and they always carry this. Well, I don't know if that's going to stop certain frequencies from hitting
Well,
us.
here's my point. Look, these insidious little devices have been with us for a long time now, quite a while.
And maybe they're
And
being
these
used now against us. Consider that.
Dr. Richard Sutter
Is they're
doesn't
being
even use his
used
phone.
as
Yeah,
delivery devices.
I've talked to people that spend a lot of time in the jungle. It even affects them when they're in the jungle and there's no signal.
Yeah.
I don't know what good a cell phone is if it's you have no access signal. There's many places here in Ecuador, including my own house here. We don't have phone signal. Now, I'm able to talk to you because we have internet service. We use a satellite service here. So I have internet service. That's how we're able to talk. But there's no cell phone signal here. And this signal will affect you whether you're near a cell phone or not, or whether there's So,
Okay.
I mean, I'm not discounting that entirely. I suppose that maybe cell phones could conceivably be a contributor to it. I know about EM pollution.
Yeah.
I have an extra advanced, the highest license the FCC gives for a ham radio operator. I have an extra advanced ham radio license. And when you take the test, there's all these questions about EM pollution. Outside of that world, EM pollution doesn't exist,
Mm.
but you can't pass the license for your extra advanced ham radio license with the FCC without knowing about the effects of electromagnetic pollution. I don't understand it's possible. I just, in this instance, I can't say that it's not a contributor, but if you were to ask me, do I think it's the main dish? I don't believe that.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm open to.
Yeah. Okay. So
And
tell us.
Here's another thing. They're just insidious now as they were 2 years ago,
Yeah.
5 years ago, 10 years ago. These insidious little things, and nobody, well, at least nobody that I know, neither myself nor everybody I know was having any of these symptoms, and they didn't start to manifest until 2018. Why? Why weren't there some people experiencing them in 2015 or 20?
Well, no, I was
2010?
experiencing them in 2014, 15, 16, and then they really got bad just the last couple of months of 2019. So,
No, I
Greg,
didn't know that.
yes, yeah, the dizziness, like, what the heck is this?
You might be more sensitive. You might be more sensitive than I am.
Yeah,
I didn't really notice them until 2018. I mean, the
that's a
high pitch.
problem.
There's certain things I recognized,
Yeah.
but it didn't get really to the point where I was no longer able to describe. I was, before that I was like, well, who knows? Maybe I'm developing the tinnitus. Maybe I had excuses for everything. But after these started happening, where it was like I felt like it was taking over my whole physiology, then it was no longer something that I could simply write off or discard as right off to something. It was no longer. And then when I found out my friends were experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
So
yes. Well,
prior to that, I had them, but not like, and then in 2018, it got more so. And then now I would say, since my wife has also reported, I'm also feeling stronger effects. I mean, literally, let's say that I'm walking somewhere and this thing hits me. I have to stop. It takes all the effort I can just to continue to remain upright. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to pretend that I'm looking at something. Maybe I'm a tourist. Maybe maybe I see something in the sky. I literally have to pretend.
Oh, a UFO in the sky.
I have to pretend that because I don't want people around me thinking, what the hell is going on with this guy? I don't want them
what's
to
wrong
think
with him?
So I have to pretend it's something natural, and I've just decided that I'm going to stop walking. I don't want anyone to know that if I continue walking straight, I'm going to bump into something because I have no control over. So this is no longer something you can just say, it's.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's something. Thank God the severity doesn't hit me that often. Thank goodness. So, Greg, which chapter of your Gospel of 2012, which chapter discusses this earth transition? Which chapter?
I think chapter 5. Basically, what I was told, which I thought was amazing. This to me is amazing. I was told that our Earth is the heart chakra of the universe, and that it's its center. I'm like, it's not its center. It's not even at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, let alone the center of the universe. That's a bunch. I mean, with all due respect, I can have a session, I can be told something, and I'm not always reverent. Sometimes, I don't mind telling a spirit guide, are you joking? They know this about me. They know I'm not being disrespectful, but I have no problem saying, really? So, and my spirit guides are very patient with me, but so when I was told it's the center, I thought, yeah, right. Okay. We're not even the center of our own solar system or the Milky Way. We're not the center of anything. We look like we're some kind of abandoned outpost here, and God has just decided, is totally forgotten about us. It feels that way sometimes. So
Hmm.
anyways, when I got this information, I'm thinking, yeah, right. So I was told that our Earth is the heart chakra of the universe. There's 3 chakras above and 3 below. 7 major chakras, actually 12 chakras, but 7 prominent ones, center of the human body. And I didn't even think anything more about that. And then in 2016, I think this movie comes out that is called The Principle. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Well, they've done astro radio work in both directions, and they have found out that whatever this thing is that we're on, it's certainly not a rock that's 8,000 miles in diameter and 24,000 miles in circumference. Whatever this Earth is, wherever we ended up landing here, it's like this whole thing is a construct
Hmm.
created for us, because guess
Oh,
what? In
yes.
both directions, we are equidistant. Anyways, here's what's happened. The director and the producer and the director of the movie got this woman, I can't remember, she was a starship captain on the one of the series, the Star Trek, celebrity. And they hounded, this establishment hounded her, because it was like, these guys are crazy, don't associate. And whenever you get too close to the truth, the people you're associated with, particularly if they're anyway famous or a celebrity, they get hounded. You are to disconnect from this immediately. Okay?
Hmm.
But they got some top, for this documentary, The Principle, they got some top-notch physicists to say, well, it's true, and they got them on the record doing that. And after the movie came out, they had to backtrack. No, I was misunderstood. It's like, dude, don't tell me you were misunderstood. We got you. We got you on video saying these things, saying that the Earth appears to be at the center of the, and they were all crawfishing, because obviously they get a phone call from somebody in authority telling them, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have associated yourself with this project. You are immediately to
Hmm.
recant it. Of course, when you say something like that, how do you recant it?
Yeah.
How do you recant something? But that's what they did. It's a really interesting story. If you look into it, it's really interesting. But anyways,
Well,
and this is
here's
what I was told in
Greg.
2020,
Greg.
years and years before that movie came out.
Greg. Yeah. Here's
There you
here's
go.
the movie poster. The universe is trying to tell us something. The principle. Are we listening?
I think that this Earth, this is what it feels like. This Earth, you know how in Vedic teachings, they tell us that we live in Maya, we live in a world of a complete fantasy world, a complete made-up world. This is a fundamental principle of Vedic studies, a branch of really the very highest principles of the more common religion that is called Hinduism.
Mm-hmm.
And you find shades of it in Buddhism and Taoism as well. Okay. The argument can be made, this is a holodeck. This is a holodeck.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
purpose of the holodeck is to screen out people who are dumb enough,
Mm-hmm.
dumb enough to commit themselves to the Luciferian agenda. They get all the money and fame and everything else that they want.
Mm-hmm.
They get special privileges for signing away their eternal heritage. They get special privileges for the brief
Mm-hmm.
amount of time that they're occupying the holodeck. And that all the rest of the universe is part of this holodeck scene. And this has all been created for our entertainment. Because are you not entertained? I mean, that's what it feels like. And I was amazed when this is all stuff that happened to me after that movie came out, and I was told about it, and I started looking into it, and what they did to excoriate the movie and attempt to make anyone who's associated with disreputable. This is what the media does. This is what the big tech does. This
Yes.
is what the Googles and the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the
Our
Twitters of the world
friends.
want to
Our
do to you.
friends.
Our friends,
The
the
media.
people that want to
Yes.
suppress
Our
anything
friends.
truthful,
Yes.
because you animals are supposed to stay in the zoo, and you're not supposed to be thinking about, it's like, a la Jim Carrey and Truman. You're not supposed to step outside your paddock. You're supposed to stay in the zoo. You're an
Yeah.
animal. You're filth. You're dirt. Stay in the zoo where you belong. And some of us go, well, wait a minute now. Maybe I don't want to stay in the zoo. Maybe I want to go somewhere else. So, not allowed.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem. A problem. People who don't know their place in the world. People don't know that we're a slave species on a prison planet who were genetically re-engineered, whatever it was, 100,000 years ago, Anunnaki, whatever these stories are, the things that you see if you watch TV and you watch Ancient Alien, and we can laugh about it. Oh, that's just fantasy. Well, it kind of feels true. Kind of feels true. There's this, in the ancient Vedic text, a man or a woman who's living a full Sat Yuga, they talk about 100,000-year lifespan. And we get to Treta Yuga, you get one of the intermediate yugas in between Sat Yuga and Kali Yuga. It drops down to only 10,000. You're only allowed to live 10,000 years. You have a much reduced lifespan. You only get to live 10,000 years. And then we drop down into our time, and this very recent document, they call it, what is the name of it again? I think you call it the Bible. You've got, Adam lived to be 930 years old. Methuselah lived to be 916 years. And there's actually 27 different people in the Bible that lived to be over 900 years old if you actually study the document carefully.
Yeah.
So you wonder, well, wait a minute. So it drops to 1,000 years. And then in our time, if you live to be 100 years old.
Yeah.
They interviewed this woman. Professor Guy McPherson talks about. They interviewed this woman. She had her birthday at a nursing home. She's 117 years old. So they go up to the microphone. What is it like to, go up to with the microphone? What is it like? What is it like to live? Oh, this is unbelievable. 117. What is it like to live such a long life? And this woman says, it was nothing. It went by so incredibly fast. You think 117 years is a long life? It's nothing. Sitting there, with a birthday cake in front of everything, it's nothing. I think she died 2 months later after the interview.
Oh.
But yeah,
never do
years
an interview,
nothing,
Greg.
nothing.
Never do an interview when you're 100 years old. It might kill you.
There's a lot to be said for that. Yeah. Well, when you understand like I do, when you've done enough ayahuasca journeys and you've had these Swedenborg type experiences where you visit hell, you visit heaven, and many layers in between, you really realize just how that you come into a familiarity of this kind of psychic discharge that Robert Monroe used to talk about in his books, the loosh, the feeding of the demons. They really get off on that. They're really, I was laying in bed with my wife one day. We often read and share internet stuff, while we're laying down. I said, "Hon, take a look at this," and I was reading something out of this famous guy who was a Jesuit priest and was very high up in the Vatican, and Malachi Martin, Blood of Keys of My Blood, or whatever, all these books. Anyways, the last book he wrote, I happened to be reading about it. And it's called Windswept House. You can look it up online. It's Windswept House by Malachi Martin. And I'm reading this book, and he talks about a sacrifice. The Pope is there and all these cardinals, and they're sacrificing this poor dog and doing things to maximize the screaming and maximize how much pain they inflict on the dog. And I read that, and I thought, that's too close to the truth. They're going to take this guy out. Well, a couple of months later, he was dead. He was found dead in his New York apartment. You can look it up online. 1999. He died in 1999. But why they killed him? They killed him for writing that book. He was bragging on Art Belcho. He's bragging. My books are really not fiction. They're really factual books that I write in a. Yeah, there you go. That's it right there. He was writing that. I said, this is too close to the truth. Of course, the Vatican really is run by people who are truly Satanists. They're going to kill him for writing a book. And sure enough, a couple months later, they did. This thing has happened to me a lot. You remember Joan Rivers? Remember comedian Joan Rivers?
Yes.
Again, I told my wife, hey, take a look at this. Take a look at this YouTube. When do you think that we're going to have a gay president? When do you think we're going to have a gay president? Oh, we already have a gay president. Everybody knows that Michelle Obama is a tranny. Anyone who thinks that you got to be an idiot to think that Michelle Obama is an actual real woman. She does these dance moves, and you can see she's got a penis bigger than mine. Okay, fine. Thanks for the visuals. I understand. But I said to my wife, you're looking at a dead woman. They're going to kill her. She wasn't supposed to do that. Sure enough, about 30 days after I made that comment to my wife, she goes in for some kind of minor surgery. She's 81 years old at that point, dead. dead as a doornail. You're not supposed to be a member of the elite and say anything truthful.
Yeah.
It's dangerous to your health to open your big fat mouth and say something truthful, that's of a sensitive nature.
Mm.
And so this has happened repeatedly to me, all through my lifetime. I remember many, many years ago. In fact, this is when I was with my first wife. I looked at that famous photograph where Lyndon B. Johnson's taking the oath off, and he's got his hand up like this. And you got petrified Jackie Kennedy next to her, and she looks completely freaked. Of course, given what happened, she's got to be in complete state of trauma. Energetically,
Yeah.
I said, this is in the 1980s. I said, he was part of the conspiracy to have JFK assassinated. I have a direct line to it. He was part of the conspiracy. I told it to my wife. I'm not going to say it to anybody else. I don't want anybody else thinking I'm crazy. Years after that, in 2003, the History Channel does a series on JFK. And the name of that series, you can look it up on Wikipedia or name numerous, The Guilty Men. That's the title of this episode of this whole JFK investigative, The Guilty Men. And you got what? JFK's mistress. I guess he was sleeping with her the night before, going, tomorrow, I'm never going to have to worry about Jack again after tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And doing everything short of saying, tomorrow, we're taking that rat bastard out. We're taking him out.
And Greg, in a documentary that was released in 2018, they interview his mistress, Lyndon B. Johnson's mistress, and she relates other details around that. But yes.
Well, then you probably know more than I do. But my point is that repeatedly, I've seen this throughout my whole career, where someone who's in a trusted position, and if you're a Hollywood actor or actress, that's a trusted position. You're in the limelight.
Yeah.
Look, I just wrote an essay yesterday. We were talking about Jason. Remember the thing you sent me?
Yeah.
I just wrote an essay about. They actually classified it as if it was a top secret CIA document. The fact that Harry Hoxsey was curing cancer with methods that are similar to what we use, and it was declassified. Now we find out supposedly in 2002, but only maybe now it's being talked about. And they make the claim that the AMA, the American Medical Association, which has been giving out disinformation since it was founded in 1848, following the institution of another demonic institution called the American British Association, the British Medical Association in 1832, putting out garbage, giving us big helpings of garbage for the last 180 to 190 years. We will not allow anyone publicly to say that they were cured of it. We will not allow famous people to discuss alternative cancer cures that cure cancer. Now, 1980, or 1979, at the age of 49, Steve McQueen, famous actor, Steve McQueen, finds out he's got cancer. Goes down to Mexico. He's using pancreatic enzymes and other things, and he's making miraculous recovery. He does a news announcement. We're going to blow the lid off this. There are effective ways of curing cancer, and it's not chemo and radiation. Somehow he gets talked into doing what is supposed to be a minor surgery to remove some of the cancer tissue. He's dead the next day.
Yeah.
Coincidence?
And they killed him.
No, couldn't possibly be a coincidence. He goes in for what's supposed to be minor surgery, and he's dead the next day. The same way that Joan Rivers goes in for a minor leg operation at the age of 81, and she's dead the next day. Yeah. So, coincidence. Go back to sleep.
Yes, go back to sleep. Yeah. Okay.
Your eyes are feeling heavy.
Greg. Okay, so to wrap this up, we are in for a wild ride. We're in for some big changes, and many of us are already feeling some symptoms. So we know more now to take care of ourselves, to slow down and let those symptoms pass, and we'll be okay. Now, I don't know what's going to happen if the symptoms increase and don't go away in several minutes.
Dolores Cannon said we're adjusting,
well,
or our bodies are having to make adjustments.
yeah, we'll have to adjust and deal with that when it gets here. But something has us well in hand, and we are on our way to a new world, one way or another, the easy way or the hard way. We are in for a ride and in for a new world. So thank you, Greg, so much for joining us and giving us more information around this ascension symptoms and this phase transition we're experiencing. We'll be talking about this more as the symptoms and things change with all of us. And I'll be talking with more people about this to gather more and more information. Exciting times, very exciting times. So Greg, again, thank you so much. And YouTube watchers, please like us here on the like button. Please click that. And thank you so much for watching and joining us. And Greg, we'll see you again next time. Thank you much. Bye-bye.